All right, as I come into focus and stuff. I hope you guys are doing good. I believe my audio is all set, ready to go. Looks like it is. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the show tonight, the Land of the Lost, as we take a look, dive into talk a little bit more about some of the stuff we talked about the last live show, a little bit about Lovelock Cave. We're going to show a little bit more pictures and stuff I couldn't find last stream. Also going to talk about more facts and information I can show you guys on the Devil's Hole and karst systems that are underneath North America. And then we're going to take a dive into a little bit into the six-finger giants and giants of North America. We're going to take a look at the Copper Mound people, or the copper people of Michigan and Wisconsin, and various different artifacts that have been found, and the speculation and theories that, of course, go along with that. Also, got a little bit of videos to show if we get to it, and we'll, of course, throw in the Bigfoot into the mix. So yeah, pretty interesting stuff. I think got a lot of stuff to kind of cover, so I'm not sure if we're gonna get to all of it, as we're gonna cut it off around 2 hours. But got a couple interesting stuff to show and some videos I would like to show. So it'd be pretty cool if we get to that. I got to download some of these videos for some reason. For some reason, there's StreamYard has been acting up today. I couldn't make the stream earlier and stuff, so that was kind of wonky and stuff. Then some of my Facebook messages and stuff that I'm posting to my Facebook, it's not working for some reason. So I'm doing a bunch of stuff and had to go a little late, but that's okay, guys. So anyways, let me get this. Maybe it won't. I don't know. We'll have to figure this out. Anyways, it's not important. We'll get to the videos later anyway, so maybe it will fix itself by then. Weird. Anyways, hopefully everyone's doing good. Whenever you guys watch this and stuff, where to get started? As we dive deep, I think we're going to talk a little bit about some karst systems, and we'll get into the information I was talking about on the last stream, which was the Devil's Hole and its karst system and how it is massive expanse of tunnels and caverns and abyss, basically, that hasn't fully been explored. Okay, looks like the messages are working now. Sweet. Awesome. So I got some video that would go along with our next segment, the Lovelock Cave, as we take a look into more in-depth photographs and stuff. So where's the other one? Oh, I don't have this article up. Okay. Give me a second. Give me 1 second to go back and find it. So basically, as we're going to take a look at the Devil's Hole, because it's a very unique karst system in the middle of Nevada in the desert, actually, as we are about to pull up these articles. That's not it. There was a pretty interesting history that goes along with this hole. Is basically there's some Native American myth and legend and lore about you shouldn't basically kids and stuff shouldn't have bathed in the waters for too long, otherwise they'll get kidnapped and stuff. And of course, the pioneers came over, and when they discovered it, they bathed in its waters and stuff as a oasis in the middle of nowhere, basically. And there's a very unique and critically endangered species of pupfish that are only found in this small little sliver of life in the desert, in this very unique habitat. And that is the main reason and only reason. Luckily, it's gated off and stuff, and no one's allowed there. The public is not allowed there. There's a lot of scientific scrutiny, testing, and insurance taking place to ensure that the pupfish don't become extinct, because the scientists really don't know how these fish actually got into this devil's hole, and how they survived, and over the last 100 years and stuff, and last couple of decades, mostly, scientists have brought the population up, but it's still at very, very critical levels and stuff. And any minor unbalance to the ecosystem could upset and destroy them. And it's rather very likely that they survived the pioneers bathing, and people diving in, and trespassers and stuff. Because now you have to, for scientists and stuff, to go down in there and stuff, they decontaminate all the equipment and gear that they have to ensure that nothing gets in there that's going to disrupt the ecosystem bacterially, or nothing that will affect the water system. And they take very good care of those pupfish. Maybe it was this. Oh, yes, right here. So we're going to take a look at about some of the things that I talked about and stuff, and said that this, as we take a look about these articles and stuff, we're going to take a look at about the subterranean tsunami and stuff that made waves and stuff, supposedly 2,000 miles away and stuff. So this kind of section of this live show is kind of going through articles and stuff, and just collaborating what I was already saying with the actual articles and stuff that have been published over the years, and not just some bullshit I'm making up on the spot. So we're going to take a look at that as we take a look at the tragic story of basically kind of how everything got started with the Devil's Hole being put into the national spotlight. We're going to read a pretty kind of article real fast. You also can find this story in further detail of what actually happened to these divers and diving accidents at this hole and other holes around in caves and water systems around the world. But for this actual story with this particular diving accident and rescue and stuff, you can actually find a more greater detailed account online and stuff. Let me get this ready so you guys can see. I just want to look at everything real quick. Because it's very interesting and stuff, and this just shows exactly there's a lot of mysteries to North America that we still don't understand. A lot of it is underneath of us, actually. It's very fascinating. So let me pop this up real quick, as I have a lot of different stuff up. As we take a look at the pupfish, downfish, subterranean tsunami gives vertical shakes to the waterhole home of endangered fishes. So on March 20th, and this article is from 2012 and stuff, because this information is pretty old and stuff. And there's some recent developments that came to light also. All right, so March 20th, the National Park Service biologist. I don't know if this is the right article that I wanted. But that is okay. It doesn't matter. It has information that talks about the tsunami. Anyways, they descended to the Cave of the Devil's Hole, a collapsed cave in Nevada desert, 40 miles south of the visitor center in Death Valley. 30 feet down, an arm of the water extends out from a deep pool to cover a rock shelf the size of a ping pong table with up to 2.5 feet of hot water. This shallow recess is home to about 100, a little bit over more, of the much-studied adult devil hole pupfish, which are critically endangered, found living nowhere else on the planet. This pupfish received protection from human harm by force of course, federal padlock gates. There have been people who recently got in there, got all drunk and stuff, trespassed, shot up camera, went into the pool. A person puked on some rocks next to it. A person actually went into there and they found their underwear in the water and killed a pupfish. And he served some jail time and is banned from all federal parks and lands for life. So they take this very seriously of not messing up this vital ecosystem and critically endangered species that's found nowhere else. And now there are different species of pupfish and stuff, but this particular kind and species is only found here. And it's very, very endangered. It's only really a miracle it actually survived this long in modern times. So all right, so shortly after 11 a.m., Goldstein was imparting the 10,000-year history of the Devil's Hole and its pristine desidens to me in the water. Level began to rise and sink by 1/4 inches, and then feet. As we scrambled up the rocky incline, the pool was sucked out of the hole almost entirely with a giant gurgle. It rushed back in, dislodging a metal walkway over the shelf and climbing up the sides of the hole towards us. After a few more gurgles and belches, the pool waters returned to a normal level. The rock shelf had been swept clean of vegetation and pupfish eggs. Video. Seismic waves from an earthquake 2,000 miles distant caused a tsunami to roll through the underground pool at Devil's Hole in Nevada. Violent oscillations decimated the small breeding area of the endangered species of the pupfish that lived nowhere else on Earth but in these hot waters. And it's really only at the surface, too, because where the surface and the light are actually warming those waters, do you actually find these pupfish? And it's a very small area of actually the entire flooded cave system and a karst system, actually. So we had later learned that the underground tsunami had resulted from seismic waves emanating from the 7.4 magnitude earthquake 12 miles deep near the Mexican state of Oaxaca, 2,000 miles distant, according to Kevin Wilson, the National Park Service aquatic. I'm sorry, I'm butchering stuff, okay? Again, ecologist at Devil's Hole. The tidal effects of the earthquake have been directly observed only on 3 occasions since 1976. Since the 1976 Supreme Court ruling preserved the Devil's Hole pupfish by restricting the agricultural pumping of the Amargosa Valley aquifer. Sorry. I get so nervous reading and stuff. Again, I explained that last time, but again, I get so nervous and stuff, and I'm also excited to share this information. More people have walked on the moon than have witnessed the effects of an earthquake at Devil's Hole, says Wilson. And also, an interesting fact is, as we reveal some information very later, there's also a reference of very little. There's less people who've dived in a hole, Devil's Hole 2, actually located 600, I think it's 600 feet just away from Devil's Hole, the first one. Actually, more people have walked on the moon than have dived, officially known, into that one. And we're going to take a look into Devil's Hole 2, which does not have any pupfish, actually. So in 2010, the U.S. Geological Survey researcher captured a Devil's Hole tsunami with cameras tightly focused on the bottom of the pool. The first video of the event, and we are going to click and watch on that here in a minute. Ghosting and I captured the rare event with a pocket-sized video camera so you can share in our adventure without the excitement of an underground tsunami as a backdrop. The history of Devil's Hole and its pupfish residence is worth a revisit. So isolated in this pool by retreating ice 10,000 years ago, the Devil's Hole pupfish have long feasted on algae, small invertebrate, and occasionally baby pupfish. So the fish breed by laying their eggs in shallow 92-degree Fahrenheit water that submerges the rock shelf. The deep pool has been explored by human divers to a depth of 435 feet. Now, that is a pretty good key information right there, because we are going to read stories and stuff that kind of infer that this is much deeper. And now we're actually going to get the more precise actual diving logs that recorded how far supposedly it has been seen and possibly can go. And then that's about it. That's all I wanted to read and stuff. The population has ranged from 580s to 38 in 2006 and 119, give or take, last count. And everywhere in between in the last couple hundreds of years and stuff. But the very interesting fact is that the tsunami did actually happen. We do have video of it. And we do stop that real quick. I'm going to make sure the link actually works for the video instead of it being something else. We do actually have another tsunami event that happened, I believe, in 2022. And I don't have that specific article up, but I was reading it. Another one did happen, and they were speculating and stuff whether or not that Devil's Hole is actually connected, of course, to these underground water aquifer, and then unconnected 2,000 miles away through underground waterways and stuff like that, or if the seismic events are causing the rock. Oh, I messed up. I exited there. Go. If the seismic activities is causing the rock itself to act like a sponge and suck up the water and expand and then pump the water out and cause all sorts of stuff without actually be connecting through a watery water passage 2,000 miles away underground. No scientist actually has been able to confirm either theory, as no one's been able to explore its depths, nor probably will they ever will be able to safely, possibly unmanned robots, of course. But so we have unmanned robots that are exploring, Titanic and underneath deep sea stuff, but we don't have robots that are going into Devil's Hole because the pupfish thing, but also we don't have them going into exploring just how deep these holes are. I think regardless of the pupfish, it should be explored. All right, so the URL request of the video is not found. I'm sure I could find it real quick, but we're probably going to move on because we have more stuff to look at, and I don't want to get bogged down. But there is a video out there. I'm sure you guys could just look up and stuff. Let me present this and give a little bit other history and tragic backstory to Devil's Hole. All right, and this article is called "It's Like Infinity Inside the Historic Tragedy at Death Valley's Devil's Hole." And you can find this story narration online and stuff. Just diving accident or diving deaths at Devil's Hole and Death Valley, and there's also some other Devil's Hole around the world that have accidents too. But I think Mr. Ballin, Mr. Ballin did one about Devil's Hole actually. All right, so the tragedy that took the two young lives at Devil's Hole in the Moab Desert on a summer night in 1965 reported across the country in dozens of Wired stories at the time involved several colliding factors, some unearthly, a hidden lake below the desert, an ancient seismic event, a group of kids from Las Vegas making bad choices, and one of the rarest animals on Earth, the Devil's Hole pupfish. 2002 U.S. Geological Survey report, connectivity of the desert aquatic systems, the Devil's Hole story, which is actually would be pretty interesting to read, alongside a deep dive into the fate of the divers from the Moab projects from Kim Stringfellow, reveals the extraordinary story of Devil's Hole. For centuries, the mysterious opening in the desert just over the Nevada border confounded those who stumbled across it. On its surface, a gap in the rock the size of a living room drops down 30 feet to a limestone shelf and hot water pool. Below, a series of tunnels leads to numerous caverns and the Infinity Cave, a giant underwater lake that has never been fully mapped. Several adventurers try to find its deepest contours. One diver, Jim Howers, dove into the hole dozens of times in the early 60s. According to the Moab Project, it was his dispatches describing the strangeness below that may have inspired a group of 4 young men to set off on the June 20th, 1965 to explore the natural phenomenon. Hewitt's first reported on the hole came in the AP story in May 1964. Somewhat ironically, it was also Hewitt who would later lead the record-setting dive in the attempt to find these guys also. Of course, here's how he described the hole underground topography to the AP. It's beautiful in there. It goes down straight. It goes straight down 160 feet like a pipe, then opens to a room. The explorer told the reporters in 1965, I dived to 315 feet. Maybe it's a record. I don't know, but at the end of the tube, it opens up again into something else. We don't know what the next room is or if it's a room at all. It's like infinity. Of course, this is as we get into and stuff, this is very interesting and scary to think about. In the story, the diver calls the rocky walls inside the cavern the most beautiful stone he's ever seen. Greens, blues, so blue they are nearly white. Quartz, bronze colors, every color in the rainbow, he said. There's nothing to be afraid of except panic and stupidity. And here is a image of a little bit of what Devil's Hole looks like. And I will get a better image for you guys. Let me get a better whole image so you guys can actually see it. Because it is interesting. And we'll show you some new stuff. New image. All right, that did not work. And another interesting note, Charles Manson was also scouting this exact spot to hide before he got caught and stuff. He was actually looking to go, one of the spots was to go here. All right, so I'm just going to scroll down and stuff. So here's the desert floor. Here is the shelf as you go down the 30 feet down to the shelf where you dive in, where the pupfish live. And the pupfish habitate this area right here. And as you continue to dive into the pipe right here, here you have, as you dive into and stuff, you get through the pipe, it opens up into one room and stuff. And as you would come back up and stuff, and you would come back up and try to reach to the surface, these are like false entrances and false holes where as you're going up and stuff, you get back up to one of these and you can't find the exact way. A lot of people panic, people who have nitrogen psychosis and stuff, which is very common in diving accidents. When you get too much nitrogen in your bloodstream and you basically become drunk and super drunk, really too much before you even have time to realize that you are super drunk and what's going on. And then people panic, or people frolic and lollygag as if they, are drunk, and they take off their breathing apparatuses and they do all sorts of stuff that doesn't make sense. And or the trying to do basic stuff becomes almost impossible and your dexterity is lost, and of course all that. Here is where the other air pockets and stuff are. Of course, this is what has been explored and mapped out. And as you dive down to here and stuff, now this is the old article where they dive down to 284 feet, or as Haywood said, he dove down to 315 feet, which is right here, down right here. But as we're going to continue to read the article, it actually goes down much farther. And so let's continue to read the article. As the four high school friends, David Rose, 20, who the AP reported was a Las Vegas casino parking attendant. Paul, 19, a cafeteria worker at the nearby Nevada nuclear test site, and brothers Bill, 19, and Jack, 20, alter, headed to the spot 90 miles northwest of Vegas, armed with some amateur diving gear and a whole lot of courage that Saturday night. A few hundred feet from a dusty road, now known as Devil's Hole Road in Nye County, the small bluff that hides the pool is accessible only by foot. The temperature of the water at the geothermal pool remains at about 92 degrees year-round, not much cooler than the human body, as the U.S. Geological Survey reports explains. This unusual warmth combined with small rock. Sorry, got a message and stuff. Pretty sure it's from a troll and stuff. Not sure yet. I'll find out. Yeah, pretty sure. Combined with a small rock shelf that jets out just below the water surface, has given rise to a unique, excitingly rare animal calls the cave home. It's unclear if the boys knew about the pupfish that day, but they almost certainly endangered the entire species' fragile existence as they lowered themselves into the water. They're just trying to have some fun and stuff, just to dive and experience the cave and stuff. most likely not, of course, meaning to do harm. The devil's pupfish, according to the National Park Foundation, were named for their habit of frolicking like puppies and are thought to be the rarest fish on Earth. The 1-inch metallic blue fish has iridescent eyes, lives only in the upper 80 feet of the cavern, and spawns on the rock shelf that forms a sun-dabbled shallow pool at this cavern's entrance. They are found nowhere else, and no one is really sure how they got there, other than the theory that the glaciers came, trapped them in there, and they've been surviving on insects and algae and cannibalistic tendencies. Their habit is the smallest range of any vertebrate species on the planet. After the discovery of the fish, the cave and the surrounding area was added to the Death Valley National Monument by President Harry Truman in 1952. Efforts to prevent the species from being wiped out has been successful in recent years. Spring of 2022, the count of 175 fish, highest count in 22 years. Back in the 60s, however, not everyone was a fan of the animals or the efforts to protect it, as the local, I'm going to kind of skim this part if they talks about this, as the local ranchers were building wells and siphoning the desert's groundwater and affecting the overall aquifer and stuff. Water's lowering, supposedly. I'm not sure if this is actually the case, because there's a lot of factors when it comes into these underground aquifers, this karst system, and everything affects how it affects this actual system and stuff, because they don't know if it's actually a water source that will run out, as if it's just some people think it's a seismic crack, which it is, a seismic crack in the floor of the desert and stuff, that it's sealed up and it has its own contained system, reservoir system. It's not connected to the actual aquifer system, or it's not connected to the 2,000 miles of karst system waterways to like Mexico and stuff. Other people think it is a own contained system. Other people think it is connected to the aquifer system that is underneath the desert. And some people think it's actually connected even farther to other aquifer systems and karst systems that basically go not only to Mexico, but crisscross North America and into other systems, supposedly. Again, no scientist has been able to really check and do all this theories, because it is too dangerous to go down into these holes, and plus divers and stuff. You can check out the most record dives and stuff. It's not far enough to go and exploring karst systems and stuff, especially when there's water pressures and vortexes of water that can suck you and send you miles, not just feet, not 900 feet until you're at the maximum at people die with super specialized gears, but suck you miles or suck you more than 1,000 feet in a blink of an eye. And all of a sudden your equipment and gear and your body can't handle any of the pressures and things like that. And the severe coldness that could be, especially down in the earth with the lack of sun and stuff. So let alone the collapsing of karst cavern systems and stuff and other seismic activity, which we'll probably read in these other articles. But anyways, I'm not really interested in reading the pubfish articles and the pubfish information and stuff. The ranchers were banned from drawing, of course, the groundwater, the feud, blah, blah, blah. They were saved the pubfish. They went to the Supreme Court in the 1976 decision, protecting the groundwaters. That's how it became on the national spotlight in everyone's mind, and a lot of people got mad. Of course, there are two endangered species here, the pubfish and the American rancher. Let me read some of these comments from Peter. I appreciate the comment, Peter. Yeah, caving is crazy and stuff, and caving, there are a lot of different caving clubs in every state, just as he says, and there are karst conservatories and karst clubs that go exploring and maybe not go super cave diving like some of these caving clubs, but they do explore the karst systems and topography across the states and lands and stuff. Yes, this is exactly right. Most caving deaths are from diving accidents or from water. Uh, there are some there are some cases and stuff where people have gone caving and stuff. All of a sudden, it rains unexpectedly, or it's rained a couple days ago, and the water underneath the ground, all of a sudden the cave starts filling up, and people start drowning, can't escape fast enough. There are a number of documented uh, cases of cavers going missing and rescue people even becoming endangered themselves because diving is extremely dangerous, but cave diving is like a whole nother level of extreme danger. And but you can find more information on that. And I would recommend their channel called Dive Talk, I believe, with the two guys. I can't remember their names right now, but Dive Talk. They do a lot of safety information and stories on diving and being of course diving instructors and doing cave dives and stuff like that. All right, so let's continue the article. Even in 1965, only those with diving permits were allowed to enter the hole, but the good old boys ignored the warning signs, didn't get the permits, of course, and lowered themselves down to the rock ledge. According to various AP stories published at the time, here's how the fateful night played out. 3 of them dove into the water without wetsuits and with rudimentary air tanks or aqua lungs on their backs. Bill's brother Jack stayed on the shelf as a lookout, which is very good because if you're ever diving or in general, you should have someone on the surface in case anything goes wrong. They can go get help. That is the number one thing. And as we're going to read, a lot of accidents and even more compounding accidents and deaths happen because of not having someone on the surface ready to go get help. That is actually a big factor in a lot of cases. Shortly into the dive, at an unknown depth, Bill noticed his oxygen supply was already running low. He recalled the following day on realizing this that all 3 divers headed back up. But Paul never surfaced. Alter and Rose then frantically dove again to find their friend. When Bill Alter came up for a second time, he realized he was now the only diver to surface. His friends were gone. He got it, and there's a little bit more, I think, to the story where like Mr. Ballin talks about some of the more details of the story and nuances of getting narked and narcogen in your bloodstreams and stuff. Nitrogen narcosis. And so he got ahead of me, and I lost him, Bill Alters told reporters. I went to a depth of 175 feet, and I couldn't find him. The surviving brothers drove through the night back to Vegas to get help. Rangers and a sheriff search and rescue posse got to the hole in the early hours, telling reporters there was a slim chance that the missing boys may be sustained by air pockets in the hole. A search team of 5 divers, led by Howitz, worked in 105-degree heat through the day to no avail. So when they thought that, well, they could still be alive in these air pockets, they're talking about being alive in these air pockets right here. Of course, because when you dive down to about 100 70 something feet, you're at this point down here, possibly even heading down to here. And so when you get lost in the cave, or you're running out of oxygen and you're in a panic, or you get a little bit nitrogen and nicosis and you start getting basically super drunk and delirious, and some people do, do all sorts of stuff. You start going into these false pockets and these false entrances, the false surface, and you get stuck up in here and you get turned around. You kick up all the dust and the silt and stuff. And especially back then in 1965, when they don't have all the specialized gear and knowledge and safety protocols that we have nowadays, and the lights, it was really a disaster waiting to happen, honestly, especially back then, when the gear and the tanks and stuff really, even at almost 200 feet and stuff, it wasn't, wasn't good and stuff. I don't know if they had in their air tanks. We'll have to, I guess we could look back, but if they had actual like regular air or pressurized air and stuff, because you could, on regular air, you can dive to 100 and something feet, but after that, that air becomes toxic and stuff, and it's not fit to deep dive. And some of the speculation in the story of, like, Mr. Balling goes into that they deep dive and were experiencing and became narked, as they called it, nicosis, and they get all drunk and stuff, and you just you, even if you wanted to get out and stuff, you're helpless and stuff, and so they got knocked out of their minds. And as they're trying to bump around and go here, and two of them resurface and stuff, dive back down and stuff, of course he loses his friend and stuff. And this is the other thing, is when you in diving stuff, when you lose someone, it's it's everyone's on their own. So if we go back into the cave looking for the third person, and you kick up a bunch of silt, and now it's silted up, and I don't know where I'm at. I don't know what up from down, left from right. And now, I make my way back up and find the surface. You're on your own, because the more that that person keeps diving down to go find the other person, is more likelihood that they're going to get lost. They're going to get turned around in these false entrances, these little cracks in this cave, false entrances and tunnels and stuff. And they might think, oh yeah, I'm over here. I'm almost where this air pocket is. I could get up here and survive. And they're crawling out through here and getting stuck and turned around and all sorts of stuff. And this is what happens at a lot of caving accidents. So that is what happened to those people and stuff. Is speculated and stuff that they went too far down and got narked, and then the friend went too far down, got narked, and luckily the third one resurfaced. And there's a lot of people who will resurface and tell the person on surface to go get help, and then dive back down, and of course they don't come back up. There's a lot of stories about that, and it's an extremely scary and frustrating event, I'm sure, being that you're just right there with your friends, and all of a sudden they're gone, and you dive back down, you can't find them, and you're running out of air, you can't go back down. Now they've run out of air, and you've left, and you're driving and stuff. That is pretty surreal moment, I'm sure, for anyone to realize. So let's continue to read the story. Rudimentary air tanks or aqua lungs. Yeah, these are definitely not made to dive deep down past, really, I would say 100 feet, 120 feet or something like that. It's not much. Can't be much more than that. Again, you guys can look this up yourselves. There was the slim chance that they may be sustained by the air pockets, which people, and there was different articles and stuff that you dive there, and you can take your mask off and you breathe the air, and it smells like musty, stale air, but you can breathe it, right? You can survive. So, so in a further tragic twist on the scene, the two missing young men had recently become brothers-in-laws, as the 20-year-old sister, uh, Paula, had married Rose 2 months earlier. And the newspaper reported that she, of course, used a photograph of the widow. As she wept at the cave entrance, the search and rescue team worked, but failed to find her brother or husband. Shows Rose, her mom, and Bill Alter hugging as they were told that the search was over. Due to the tragedy in the strange corner of Nevada, Hole briefly fell into the national spotlight, but no one could really describe what it actually was. Some called it a sump hole to an underground river. Others called it an extinct geyser or a skylight to the water table, which I thought was pretty interesting. The U.S. Geological Survey writes that the first human inhabitants of Death Valley, the Timbasha people, told ancient myths warning children of water babies in the hole that would swallow children if they bathed too long in the pond. The Moab Project learned in consultation with tribal elders that some native people believed that shaman with healing powers traveled the desert via the underground waterways, which I thought was kind of fascinating. Later, white settlers who arrived at the region looked for gold in 1849, reveled in the tiny desert oasis. And here is a little journal excerpt. At the entrance of the valley to the right is a hole in the rocks which contains a magnificent warm water in which I enjoyed an extremely refreshing bath, as the pubfish are going extinct right there. And little known to these people and stuff, and I think at the time, is Devil's Hole 2 is just right next to Devil's Hole. There's actually two holes at this location. At the time, the pond was referred to as Miner's Bathtub and was renamed Devil's Hole by Howitz himself in 1964. Around the time that Howitz suggests that the source of the water there may be limitless. And this is the diver who's saying this, in an untouched prediction of the coming times of drought that it could be one day save California. Yeah, right. All right, so here is what was known at the time in 1973. And so when they dive into off the shelf and stuff, you go into the pipe and you have to fit through this pretty narrow cavity. I think it was about the size of a dining room table around that stuff, enough for a diver or two to get through and stuff. And of course, you can go down to the 300-foot depth, where there will be a shelf right there, floor and stuff. And so when they were speculating, well, maybe their boys are alive, they're up into what's called the Browns room, or they got stuck up in these different offshoots, or these little offshoots which is called the breakdown, and this doesn't have any of the offshoots that are over here. But a few years after the 1965 deaths, Charles Manson convinced his followers to set the bogus racehorse. This just says that he was gonna planned on hiding there, maybe because of the name Devil's Hole and stuff like that. Maybe there's a little bit more paranormal aspect to that and stuff. I don't know. But over the years, the security has increased around the hole to both protect people from the hole, and of course the pub fish from the people. The installation of a tall fence and cameras hasn't always stopped. Of course, this talks about the drunk trespassers who had a fun time and stuff. Like I already explained stuff. There's footage showing the man vomiting as another man stripped down and lowered himself into the pool. He served a year in prison for the charges that included a violation of the Endangered Species Act, and in the other article I read, he was banned from all federal lands for life. So he got off kind of easy, I think. A year in prison and probably a bunch of fines, honestly. So to this day, and this is where it gets interesting and stuff, which I'm not sure if we skipped it or if the article skipped it. Um, which is fine. I'll read it and then I'll give the other information that's actually relevant. All right. So to this day, no one knows how deep the cave goes. The farthest depths were seen in 1991 by USGS explorers who descended to 436 feet into the lower cavern. The U.S. Geological Survey reports that they saw down to a depth of 500 feet, though they were not able to actually see the bottom of the cave. I think this article is going to say it and stuff. Of course, this talks about the earthquake that happened in Mexico. The 7.4 earthquake in Mexico caused the phenomenon of the tsunami. This implies that the water may somehow be connected to the deep movement of tectonic plates. They concluded that the area was once fertile lands of lakes and rivers. Believe that the whole was formed a millennia ago when ancient fissures collapsed in on itself. Okay, so for some reason, I thought this article talked more about the rescue diver Hewitts, who named the Devil's Hole and stuff. So he, let me pull up the, I'm gonna pull up the other diagram and stuff right here in a second. Oh yeah. The Wikipedia has it, but in the story and where you hear everywhere else, Howitz actually goes and discovers the hole and stuff, and I believe the Wikipedia article actually talks about more about the people who died and how they died. If not, I'll fill it in. And you can find this information in other articles and stuff. I'm not sure why that article didn't have it, especially when it starts talking about so much about Hewitt's and his discovery. Okay. All right. So, of course, the cause talks about the pupfish and stuff. It is a geothermal with limestone cavern in the Amargos Desert, located in Nye County in western Nevada, along the California-Nevada border. Okay, so the Devil Hole branches into caverns at least 430 feet deep, which is as far as the researchers in the 1991 GSGS survey, but it's never been fully mapped. It talks about the earthquake. So below the surface, the Devil's Hole extends to approximately to 160 feet, what is termed as the main chamber, before reaching a narrow opening referred as the funnel. Through this opening lies a much larger chamber of the cave system known as Archie's Chasm. Archie's Chasm is approximately 300 feet in a meter of 40 feet in width, and has a bottom approximately 260 feet below the surface. So now at this time, that is where Howitz did his record-setting 315 feet dive, was down to the bottom of what was at that time thought to be the bottom of Devil's Hole. Although he speculated, of course, after making an initial discovery of another tube, which is right here, immediately after passing the funnel, which was, so basically, let me, it's right here. So it does talk about it. Okay, good. So, let me read this first before reading that, because it kind of, to me, it's in order of the events that happened and stuff. So, of course, in 1965, the teenagers had jumped the fence. They went into the hole and they did not come back up, of course. Until this, where it got wrong, it says where only one teenager jumped in. He didn't come back. And then another, David Rose, jumped in to find him. Then he didn't come back. And then, so that is where this story gets misfounded on Wikipedia, which you always have to remember to kind of always do a little bit more open source reading when you're looking at information than just trusting Wikipedia, although they do have other information that can be found and sourced elsewhere. All right, so on June 20th, 1965, during the second dive of the rescue, when the body recovery mission, this is where it's very interesting. It was Jim Hewitts who, with his dive partner, dove all the way down to the 315 feet below the surface, just where they discovered a narrow side tube that can be found to the diver's left. Now, at this time, and Hewitts was the main explorer of this cavern, he never knew it was there. And so when he first discovered it and stuff, the side, so when he first discovered it and stuff, he basically walked over to it and stuff, and he this is not in order. So basically he walked over to it and he looked into the hole. Before he got to the entrance of the hole and stuff, which he could see could barely fit a diver with a scuba tank in, he felt the draft, the suction of the water pulling into the hole itself, and he chose not to go any farther. And then he, of course, he dropped his weighted line to a depth that didn't stop, to a depth of 932 feet from the start of this opening without hitting the bottom of the chamber. And due to the strong current, the small size of the entrance, and the unknown depth of the cavern below, which Howitz termed the infinity room, Jim and his partner chose not to explore this infinity room. This mission did, however, confirm that the infinity room of Devil's Hole and the cavern system itself has a depth of at least 1,247 feet from the surface. So what happened, and what's speculated, is that the two divers and stuff, the first one and stuff, they dove way too far past their regular air tanks were allowed. They got all narked up, nitrogen narcosis. They got super drunk. And that first one dove, most likely is what they thought. They dove deep into the chamber. He might have thought he was going up, going into the funnel, into Archie's chasm. That happens a lot. You get disoriented, especially if you're narked out of your mind, drunk out of your mind. Anyways, both those bodies were speculated to made its way down there, or that's where unfortunately they died at. And basically the story is that the first guy was thought to have walked over to the hole and got sucked in and couldn't help himself and got sucked in. So that weighted line went 900 and over 900 feet to the bottom without stopping, without hitting anything and stuff. And of course, he the way he knew it was 900 and something feet on the line is every so often on the line itself was marked and tagged in a way that would show the distance. And so that's where he got the 947 feet from that already 315 foot underwater depth and stuff. So it was speculated the second guy either made his way down to Archie's cavern and stuff and died, or got narked out and made his way to the hole, or even if his body was in the hole, eventually, if it was dead, went over and floated towards the hole, got sucked underneath. So in the 1991 geological GIS survey, where the divers went into Devil's Hole, they went into Archie's cavern, and then they dove into the actual hole that was measured at 947 feet, and that is where we get right here is the 1991 Devil's Hole exploration led by Alan and Paul and Sheck entered what they found to be a rather narrow tube rather than an infinity room at 315 feet. Descending to a depth of 436 feet, the team reported being able to see down to a depth of some 500 feet without visualizing the bottom of the cavern. So that is as far as we get. And this is kind of not a good representation, but this is kind of what this is what they draw. So basically right here and stuff is like Archie's chasm, and then the little funnel that goes down to 436 feet that they can document and say, well, it's at least that feet. It's at least 500 feet. Now, it's not an infinity room, but it's a tube that keeps going down and down and down. And remember, when they did the weighted, which I don't know why they just didn't do another weighted line measurement when they were at 400 and something feet, because they could have put the weighted line back down from there and then measured it, even if it hit a shelf and stuff, a rock protruding and stuff. You could have got some more measurements. So that's as far down Devil's Hole people have actually gone. And so it is speculated, of course, that Hewitt's and stuff, his recording of the 900 and something feet, an additional almost 400 feet below what the divers in 1991 seen, it is speculated, of course, it juts down and shoots off into different caverns and potentially is connected to the aquifer that is underneath the desert, and of course the tsunami over 2,000 miles away in Axacata, probably butchering that, Mexico. And it's centered. So this, again, it's pretty fascinating stuff because we just don't know how deep it actually really goes. And it is more or less of this. North America has a lot of karst systems like this, aquifer systems, karst systems, or different caverns and waterway systems created by water and water pressures and stuff. There's a lot of rock and sediment underneath North America that actually provides this sort of natural occurring stuff. There's a lot of volcanic lava tubes and stuff on the West Coast. There is a lot of aquifers and karst systems in the mountain ranges, all the way even in the desert systems. That water goes somewhere and it goes underneath the water and stuff. And the potential that that there's more unexplored areas like this, even more stuff that we don't know is more likely than not, because there's no way for us to go down there to fully explore the depths and what's actually in there. And this is all fresh water, of course. Then, of course, in September 19th, 2022, another earthquake happened, and they were able to record that one at 1,500 miles away. But and here is this other one. Or is that Devil's Hole 2? All right, that is the diagram. Of well, there's the brown room and stuff like that, so it's not a really good one. Um, yeah, that's it. And there's Devil's Hole 2, which is right next to Devil's Hole, and that one goes to a depth of, let me show you guys real quick. So this is Devil's Hole 2, and it goes down to, I think, 400 or something. Yeah. 423 feet. And that one, I think, has been more explored enough. From the articles I read and stuff, they believe that the two are connected, although they have never found how it was connected. Of course, they have never probably dove deep enough into that one either. But the articles I found on that one doesn't necessarily talk about how there's this hole that keeps going underground that's connected and stuff. Although they keep talking how it's speculated that they're connected and stuff. So there is actually two of them right next to each other, built kind of the same way through the same system. Yeah, cavers. And America actually has a long history of caving as a pastime, American pastime. A lot of in the early 1800s and throughout the 1800s, there were a lot of people who went caving as an activity, and a lot of these, show caves and stuff. As we talked about the Grand Caverns of Virginia and the old cryptid photograph that was taken in the 1890s. That cave was open for almost 90 years to the public for people to come in and to take public walks, unguided public walks, and have lanterns in there, and no safety protocols and nothing like that, no special suits and nothing like that. And there's a lot of different caves in America that were like that. And so caving is actually is one American pastime and is older than baseball, actually. So uh yeah, um incredibly dangerous and stuff. If I found a cave and stuff, realistically, I would only potentially only go really as far as the light would really penetrate, even if I had a flashlight and stuff. Even all the rope and gear and stuff like that, you'd have to have multiple people. You'd need to let people know. And, unofficially, officially, if you find a cave, you're supposed to let, the government and officials and the Karst Conservatory here in Michigan know and stuff like that. But, because it's highly dangerous and stuff. And you could go into a cave system and a collapse could happen. And all of a sudden you're trapped in there and no one knew you were in there because you just discovered it and you went into it. Bad things could happen. Maybe Bigfoot grabs you, takes you back in the cave, jumps into the river, and you get sucked miles and miles away. Then you pop up, Yeah. I don't think we're going to be talking about the Bigfoot connection to some of these caves and stuff, although it was kind of referenced that the Native Americans believed that the shamans used the waterways as a way to travel the deserts and stuff. And I thought that was an odd thing to say, you know, just because of well, how did they know that there was waterways underneath the desert when the Native Americans really didn't have any knowledge of aquifers or karst systems of underground waterways that move miles and miles this way, and reservoirs of water underneath the desert, or did they have more knowledge? And there is some truth to some of these stories of, there's entrances to the earth, this hollow earth theory of you go into the earth and do these cavern systems, and there's different ecosystems and stuff down there. There's different stuff that the official story in modern times don't accept and stuff. We don't, of course, there's no official evidence and examples that I could show you that this is the real deal, legit stuff, besides articles like this where there's speculated and assumed to be waterways connected 2,000 miles away affected by earthquakes, or there are actual karst systems and holes in the ground that you could go into and get sucked into 947 feet and keep going, that we have no idea where they're connected to besides the potential of the aquifer of a desert. Well, the water has to go somewhere. When it goes into the ground, it goes somewhere. And it goes through the ground, and it goes through the poorest rocks and sediment and materials and stuff. And there's a lot of different geological terms and rock names and stuff that I could read an article on that I basically had no understanding on, and butchering the name out of every single word of the sentence in that article. But basically, in Michigan and throughout North America, I don't know if I have that article pulled up, but it was something like maybe, yeah, I don't think, it was 38 to like 43% of all landmass in North America has karst systems topography in place, that there are potentials for karst systems. And I thought that was crazy. So since we're talking about these karst systems and stuff more, let's dive into some karst systems here in Michigan. And the potential that there's some Native American stories about the ant people who came from the underground, or I believe the Aztecs actually have a story of their original people came from underground caves. And potential of Bigfoot living in caves. You have stories of little people living in caves. You have all around the world, monsters living in caves, or the dragons that lived in the caves, or whatever you want. The monsters always are living in caves and cave systems. Even the oldest stories on Beowulf and stuff depict the monster living in the cave and stuff. So there's a lot of different associations with caves, cave monsters, evil things living in caves, the caves leading to the underground abyss, or the underworld, or hell itself. There's a lot of different cultural references to that, or the spirits of the dead that live in the cave. The caves are haunted and stuff like that. Very fascinating stuff. And there's a lot of speculation, of course, because of man-made mythologies and stuff, of the imagination of what the cave and stuff, what's in the cave. And so you always you drum up the monsters, the scariness, and the evil, because the cave looks evil and it's dark, and the air's stale, and sometimes there's sulfur smell depending on the geological formations and all, so of course it leads to hell itself because it smells like the sulfur from the volcanoes. And so some people, officially, it's all made up stories and mythology and imagination and hallucinations when you get into the cave and you start breathing in toxic fumes or air or lack of oxygen. You start hallucinating monsters in the cave. So there's a lot of official narrative to explain a lot of these mythological stories and legends of cave monsters and cave religious aspects and stuff. But there's also some, interesting things like these karst systems, where we're finding what there are underground miles and miles and miles and miles of tunnels and waterways and cave systems that get flooded and recede. And as we're about to read, if I pop it up, a lake in Michigan that I might go visit, actually. Maybe I'm looking to take a trip up north, and this might be one of those places I might go visit, because it's actually on the way. So here is the Mystery Valley Karst Preserve and Nature Sanctuary. It is one of the largest collapsed valleys in the Great Lakes region, and this is a key word right there, collapsed valley. The 76-acre Mystery Valley Karst Preserve a nature sanctuary, is located in Prisic. Oh, I'm butchering that right now. And I live in Michigan. And I can't remember how to say it right now. Oh, man. That's going to bug me. Just a few miles north of Thunder Bay. Just a few miles north of the Thunder Bay Karst Preserve, which is another karst topography area in northeastern Michigan. This is just northeast of like Atlanta State Game Area, or State Park, State Game Area. Another potential Bigfoot hotspot and area where karst systems and caves are definitely at. No doubt about it. So, visitors to it contains one of the largest karst collapsed valleys in the Great Lakes region, several dramatic earth cracks and sinkholes and different stuff, and a lake that rises and falls and sometimes even disappears. So I was actually looking for the article about the lake that disappeared with all the fish, and they got popped up somewhere else, and I can't find that article, even though I read it probably a year or two ago, and I've heard about it earlier than that. I wasn't able to find it, actually. I just this mystery valley kept popping up. So we're reading this one because it's kind of the same thing. Not as dramatic though, but all right. So visitors to the preserve can follow the self-guided trails, the Earthcrack Trail and the Valley Trail. Not surprisingly, the Earthcrack Trail passes a series of cracks, including two that converge into one that's several hundred feet long and nearly 15 feet deep. And potentially, if it opened up, probably hundreds of feet deep. Following the Valley Trail, visitors can see fossils of marine invertebrates such as I'm not going to embarrass myself anymore. I already have been. From 350 to 400 million years ago. Of course, unlike the valley carved by a river, Mystery Valley was formed by the collapse of the surface into a labyrinth of subterranean chambers created by water erosion of rock below. Mystery Valley is 1.5 miles long, 500 yards wide at its widest point, and about 150 feet deep, making it one of the largest known collapsed valleys in the Great Lakes region. Of course, the keyword there is known, largest known one. And we only know that this existed because the cave system underneath collapsed on itself. So there was once a massive, huge subterranean labyrinth of caverns and chambers created by this karst systems and stuff that's in this area. And so there's more of them out there that haven't collapsed. There are lakes just like this one that have disappeared. There are drainages and different levels of different water systems that get affected, all connected up there. So a thick layer of the Dovin limestone and the shale known as the Traverse Group underlines Alpena and the Prezek Isles County. Below that, about 800 feet deep, lies the Detroit River Group, which contains a large amount of evaporites, annanites, and gypsum. These materials dissolve rather more readily than limestone. And as the Detroit River Group rock erodes and creates caverns, the Traverse Group rock above collapses into the caverns and stuff. So roughly around 800 feet, you have these different groups of sedimentary rocks and stuff that are collapsing in and on itself all the time. And I'm not sure. Oh, it was a different article that showed right here. It shows examples of that. Water rising from beneath the surface often creates a lake that covers the west and lower end of the valley. Most of the water reaches the surface through a sinkhole in the bedrock at the west end of the valley, which is hidden from view. Rain and snowmelt add water to the lake. As water flows through the underground drainage system towards Lake Huron, the lake drains back through the sinkhole, now acting as a shallow hole, and disappears. Sometimes the water drains so quickly that a whirlpool forms over the sinkhole. In the other article and stuff, talking about the history, maybe it's this other one that has the pictures. Maybe not. Oh yeah, it does. Okay. Yeah, speed through this because we're getting bogged down. I have a bunch of other stuff that I'm probably not going to get to, which is fine because we're going to do another show. I think I'm going to do a show tomorrow night. Can probably be a free for all open mic stuff. We can talk about whatever. Unless someone else like Pat or Jeff are going to do a show and stuff, I might jump on there. I'll be free. They've been knocking it out of the park with some of these Bigfoot discussions, which I would love to get into, but I wanted to rehash and show information on the stuff that I've been saying with like this Devil's Hole karst systems and stuff, and how they actually do affect and can affect lakes and waterways very rapidly and affecting you have a lake that drains within a matter of minutes down one of these karst tubes and stuff. And if you were in a cave system, potentially like connected and stuff, that water can travel and get to you and flood the cave system. And all of a sudden the water's going up and up and up. And all of a sudden you're gone. So exploring deep into these karst systems is almost impossible officially right now. Because of this just dramatic water pressures and eruption of water levels that can go up and down seasonally, monthly, and in decades and stuff. You could have 100-year event and stuff come through some of these cave systems, and decades event or seasonal events, a rainfall, or like I said, it rained heavy a week ago, and then all of a sudden, typically and stuff, I would say this is more mountain ranges and stuff, but the water eventually gets to where you are and stuff and floods the area cavern that you're exploring. And there was no rain in the area, but it rained north of you or somewhere else close enough. So let's stop sharing that. We'll try to speed this up a little bit. Karst. All right, so here is talking about the karst country of the Northeast Lower Peninsula, and this is the area of Mystery Valley and just north of Atlanta, the Atlanta State Game Area, State Park, I think it is. Bigfoot, nice little Bigfoot spot, I would say. Are all these sinkholes, this karst topography and stuff, which we know actually is there. And so this talks a little bit about how it's formed and stuff, and the karst systems and stuff like that. So the interesting, I think I found out this about this one is that, the karsts in Michigan lack this significant water pressure to flush out the overwhelming loads of the sand and clay and broken rocks from the glacial debris, which cause the systems to collapse after the most of these sinks, like this, they get plugged up and stuff, and they don't have enough water pressure underneath of them or on top of them to unplug themselves to drain into here, or from the water pressure underneath to blow up and to affect it and stuff. But like I said, seasonal events or 100-year events or decades events of underwater and water pressure could change all that, because, karst topography and all that is scientifically hasn't been studied for too much longer, and you can't say it can't happen, especially if you haven't recorded this stuff for even 100 years. Underneath here, there's been records of, as we explore this article a little bit, of about 100 years worth of ponds draining into the water, and odd things, and actual pictures and stuff that we're going to show of these sinks or these drainages that are in lakes or in swamps or the bottom of a sinkhole, become unplugged and stuff and rupture and severely suck and drain, sometimes not fast, sometimes very rapidly, and like the other article says, actually does make whirlpools and stuff. But most of the time this water is filtered through rocks and stuff. Like there's no like super gaping hole where you see the bottom of the cave system and stuff, but there's definitely been holes big enough to suck a person in and stuff. And so if there are decades of vents or 100 years of vents where the water pressure from underneath gets flooded and stuff, it could create enough pressure that can affect and unplug or plug up these holes or unplug these holes up. And all of a sudden you have a massive drainage event that, you're swimming in one of these, you're swimming in a cavern with one of these waters, and all of a sudden it sucks you in, it belches you out, it gurgles a little bit like that earthquake in the Devil's Holes. What they're describing, that water was getting sucked in through that big funnel, through that 947-foot depth, getting sucked in, gurgling, pumped back out and stuff. Same thing can happen in any of these karst systems with the water pressure and stuff. It just depends on what's actually going on. And seasonal events, decades events, and even 100 years events of water table, water levels, water pressure, and just exactly what caverns and stuff is. Say you have a whole cave system that collapses from the heavier rock over top the most soluble and weaker rock, and it smashes the whole cavern down with water. And now you have all this water being pressurized and shot through the rest of the cave system. It can be very volatile to other cave systems and caverns that maybe have been dry for a whole decade or more. All of a sudden, they're bursting through with a tsunami of water pressure that is just filling it up rapidly within seconds or minutes. Or so we don't know, and we don't. It's so volatile and stuff down there. That's why we can't explore any of it. And even with robots and stuff, I don't really see us doing any of that major cave system exploration other than putting them into a hole. The karst in Michigan lacked the significant water pressure to flush out the overwhelming loads that plug up these systems. Most of the sinks are round, about 80 to 100 feet deep, and have walls sloping up to 850 feet. The bedrock extends several hundred feet more feet to the top of the shale layer, which has likewise collapsed along with other formations to a depth of 900 feet, which is which is the measurement they measured at Devil's Hole and stuff. So 800, 900 feet and stuff below the surface of northeast Michigan towards Atlanta and stuff. There are a number of cave systems and cavern karst systems that are just waiting to course, hundreds of thousands of years to collapse and stuff. It's not like this stuff's going to happen overnight, most likely, but so it talks a little bit more about this stuff. So if you wanted to read this article, I'm sure you could just type out this right here and it'll pop it up. Because it's going to talk about the types of sinkholes and stuff. We don't have time to do all this. Here's a sinkhole that's taken out a house that formed, pretty much in a spot where, you wouldn't assume sinkholes are. Here is another, the Stevens Twin Sink Preserve is another 30-acre parcel by the Michigan Karst Conservancy. I think I said conservatory earlier. It's a conservancy. And they do a lot of the preservation of karst systems in Michigan and are the number one group studying this.
besides like colleges and the government. Here's another example of the Brisky sink right here, part of Michigan. Of course, the sink, and like many sinkholes in North America, are used for illegal dumping of trash and stuff like that, like Mel's Hole, or was it Mel's Hole, or there's one of those holes near Skinwalker Ranch where they lowered the sheep in there, cooked it from the inside out, and there's like they hear people screaming, and they throw stuff in there and never fills up and stuff like that. So there's a lot of concentrated sinkholes. There are many parks, preserves dedicated towards that, and talks about the different groups of evaporites or geological sediments that can easily dissolve better than the limestone and water. Here is one of the examples of Shupak Lake and how it has drained in other lakes around and how its geological structure is. So these are some of the sinks that are filled up, but did eventually and do eventually lead to underground sections and sales. So this would be about the 800, 900 feet from the other article, about 700. So we do have examples of these cave systems and underground karst systems collapsing in the earth, showing that such and stuff. And potentially at the time, maybe there was a hole you could see. And Michigan doesn't have a lot of cave entrances at the surface, but there's always the potential that there's these entrances just underneath the surface. Then it talks about the Sunken Lake and Mystery Valley, the Rainy Lake, which is a documented example that first documented in I thought it was the early 1900s, but that they do have aerial views photography of the lake draining from April 20th to May 6th, so not very fast, but it is documented with a sinkhole or a sink drainage plug that got unplugged. And here is the almost 100 years ago event during where the entire lake dried up. The second occurrence in 23 years. And you can see just how vast of a lake it was, and how it did gush into the water. I think this is where they show kind of like where all the water's drained into. And so this was documented, of course. So you can look up that the Rainy Lake disappearance in Michigan, and it's documented case for over 100 years now, over 100 years since we have these actual photographs and illustrations. So this is something that does happen seasonally, decades in advance, 20 years, 20 years, 50 years, 100-year event. That we're just beginning to understand, and probably happens a lot more all over the world. These are other sinkholes that can be seen from the sky that are filled with water here in Michigan, and Otsego County, which is a huge Bigfoot sighting county. Actually, is one of the top 10 Bigfoot counties here in Michigan, I would say. So it just talks a little bit more about that and stuff like that. And then you could, of course, check out the Michigan Karst Conservancy website. And of course, they are looking and need volunteers and stuff like that. Probably be a good person for me to talk to and maybe interview about the potential for Bigfoot habitats underneath karst systems, to which they say that's almost impossible because there's no light sources down there. There's no way a mammal could live in there. Now, if you're talking about like underwater sea life, or not sea life, but freshwater life under there, like, shells and algae and potential of deep water aquatic life that don't need light, like we see in the Mariana Trench, maybe there are some different species of aquatic life that live in these deep recesses of these caverns and, uh, you know, uh, eat and live off the organic biological matter that grows on the caves, or that gets filtered through the lake systems, and somehow it creates this habitat of bacteria and blah 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 blah. I don't know. I'm not a scientist, but it doesn't make sense for there to actually be any life so far down deep into these, even if they are freshwater cavern systems and waterways. There's no life source down there, right? There's only fresh water source, and it's highly volatile. So, but there is a Native American legend here in Michigan that Val has recorded that there's a woman who says that Bigfoot, she's Native American. She gets taken to a cave, and she gets taken into basically an underground world where the air was kind of heavy and toxic, but they were making fire down there, and there was plants and different stuff to eat, and she got sick. Basically, she got pregnant, and they took her back to the surface to her own people, where she gave birth. The baby died. She died of an unknown sickness shortly after and stuff. But that story that Val says, the woman was very adamant that she went to a cave system, and it was like a different world. Now, there's some questions of, well, was it a different world with a sunlight, or was she just blinded the entire time and they had to use fire and stuff? There's missing information from that story because it's too gone. Yeah, definitely we're going to be checking that out too, Scott. The second largest sinkhole in Michigan, 5 miles from my house. They've been trying to fill up really, I guess I haven't heard from that. Do you got the name for that? Be another, probably in the next stream, I'll look up that information. We can show some of that, because it'd be pretty interesting that in modern times, they're, say if there's a garbage dump trying to fill it up and it's still not full, you would think that they would put a stop to anyone trying to fill those up, because they're connected to usually the water table in some sort of way. Okay, I got 20 more minutes. Don't have enough to do all the different stuff I wanted to show, because I get bogged down and all that, but that is okay. I don't got all right, we are going to take a look at the Lovelock Cave Giants and stuff as we take a look at this article first. We're going to have to skip the Michigan Copper Mound people for later, for another, because that's going to take about probably half hour in and of itself. Long story short, originally people thought Native Americans didn't use copper and stuff. There's been a lot of different findings, a lot of different fake man-made copper artifacts found here in Michigan that are passed off as real, but there are a number of very interesting, potentially viable, real Native American artifacts that are kind of not really accepted, but kind of scrutinized more often, and are kind of still even a mystery. And there's even some people who've dedicated years of their life to decoding some of these written accounts. So, long story short, the Michigan copper relics you can look up. There are, in the Wisconsin copper relics, which come from the same cultures. So officially now you can find information that they do officially talk about the Michigan copper people of the Keweenaw Peninsula was real, and that these Native Americans did mine surface copper, or native copper, which is among the most purest in Michigan, and it's at the surface, so they didn't actually have to mine and stuff. And basically, the official story is that these people mound this stuff and did make little artifacts, and they actually have spears and a lot of stuff I'm going to show you and stuff. There's no talk about giants. There's no talk about elaborate mining operations and stuff. Of how they, because could have supplied the Bronze Age or some of those weapons that they found. So that information we'll talk about next time. Talk a little bit about Michigan pictographs, what the pictographs mean, the ancient copper mining of Isle Royale. Of the Keweenaw Peninsula, and how it's now officially, like, basically the story is, well, they were mining copper and they had all this stuff and they were making copper spears and they're making very intricate stuff, and then all of a sudden they kind of stopped, and they just, so like what I read is the reason why they used copper in the Keweenaw Peninsula because it was easier to use, because it was harder to find rocks that they could shape into tools. The types of rocks found over there was not the best for tool making, so they started making copper tools. Then they stopped because the surface copper became not as easy to find, and they never developed mining technology into mining and smelting and stuff and smithing like every other copper culture. And around the world, every other copper culture that we have from this age evolved into smithing and smelting of tin and other alloys and mixing it with copper. Only the copper mound people of Michigan and Wisconsin never developed more. And the theory is that they were spoiled by the surface copper, that they never needed to dig into the other and dig into a mine. And also the copper of the Keweenaw Peninsula was so pure that they didn't need to smelt and get any of the other junk alloys or junk crap out of it, that it was all ready to go. And that the other copper cultures from around the world had inferior copper that they had to smelt to make pure, and that's why they gradually developed technology, while the Native Americans didn't. And then they just somehow, for some odd reason, just stopped making copper tools and develop into hunter-gatherers again for some odd reason. There's, again, it's kind of some mysterious stuff, but there's a long story short. All right, let's share this article real fast, and we'll try to dive real fast into the Lovelock Cave thing, because it's mainly the photographs that I were trying to find showing the potential giant skulls and the oddities that go about around them. But this article is pretty interesting. And again, this is giants with double rows of teeth and 6-finger digits. And this is a little bit old article, but it's all right. The Cherokee, and this is them speculating a lot on different stuff. Were they possibly Denisovan hybrids? And this is back when Denisovan was, first discovered and stuff. 2012. It's pretty old. So, anyways, the Cherokee called them the Moon People. The Utes and the Paiutes talk about a hideous race of the Paiutes spoke of a hideous race of cannibals 10 feet tall living in caves. Now, we read the Paiute account from the princess who told of the history, and she did not say that they were 10 feet tall. She actually never even said that they were giants. What she said was that they ate their people like beasts, and they would eat the flesh like beasts, and that they would dig holes to trap the people in, to kidnap and devour them like beasts. she never claimed that they were 10 feet tall, actually, or giants. In the words from the Native American story, which this is where the account comes from. That is the only source, right? And the Choctaw also have an account of the giants that first colonized the Ohio Valley. And here's from the book, The Old World's Roots of the Cherokee, Chapter 5, America's Middle Ages, page 78-79. We read, what kind of Indians lived in a territory the Choctaw and the Chickasaw carved out for their new home? According to their tradition, reports Cushman, as confirmed by excavations of bones in Tennessee, it was a race of white giants. The tradition of the Choctaws told a race of giants that once inhabited the now state of Tennessee and with whom their ancestors fought when they arrived in Mississippi in their migration from the west. From the migration to the west, doubtless old Mexico. Their tradition states that the Hulu race of giants, literally wizards, which is another key point, which I'm glad that they brought up, because a lot of these stories, these things are magical. They're a race of giants. They are wizards or have magic powers. It was one for statue, but was there a tradition of the mastodon, to which used to be found in the Great Plains, so this was also considered to be but a foolish fable, the creature of wild imagination. The exhumed bones again proved that the truth of the Choctaw traditions. And I think what they're referring to is the stiff-legged giants, where the natives talked about these giant, stiff-legged giant, basically mastodons, elephants. Some of these culture talks about them living in more modern times and killing natives and actually being malevolent creatures that sought revenge and stuff. But Cushman then recounts the discovery of 1880 at a burial mound site near Plano, Texas, of human bones of enormous size, the femoral bones being 5 inches longer than ordinary length, and jawbone so large that it could slip over the face of a man with ease. Of course, and they just talked about more articles and stuff about the stuff. But I need to get over to. I'm going to read that article next live show when we're not doing a open mic stuff. But I want to get over to the Lovelock Caves and jump over to the photographs and stuff, because that is more of what I wanted to talk about. Where is it? Of course, then I was going to talk about the unraveling the origins of the Roman sword discovered off the Oak Island of Nova Scotia, Canada. I was trying to find the article of the Roman sword found in the United States, but I couldn't find it. I have another article on the 17 out-of-place artifacts said to suggest high-tech prehistoric civilization, and one is in America that I found was pretty cool. I was going to talk about the rock wall of Rockwall, Texas, and the giants of there. We're not going to be able to get to that right now. Let me download this video. MK Davis actually did a video recently talking about the Lovelock giants, and he actually provided some photographs and stuff that all the photographs for the giants of the museum come from John Monroe and MK's trip and researches to the museum and to Lovelock Cave, where we're going to get the photograph here in a second of the giant handprint and some of these skull photographs that I couldn't find last time that I wanted to show you guys that MK was showing on his video. And he does give a full explanation and a summary of his trip down there, showing some very interesting evidence that he explains that he tries to show. And I had some other videos I was going to show about gorillas and some AI stuff that I might get into real fast if I can. A really amazing, crazy video. Just shows how far we're coming along. But time's just going too fast. I'm getting bogged down on a bunch of cool stuff. All right, so this is the video clip in this. So this is the photograph that I showed last time. This is the easiest photograph to find, and this is what shows to be the original Lovelock Cave giant skulls that they found on display. So the giant skull is the one in the middle that the red arrow is pointing to. The reason why it is so bronze, and then you have a little white skull cap, is because the skull was damaged, and that is a plaster fill that they reshaped on the skull. So if you guys notice anything right away, what MK points out is that the eye sockets of the skull in the middle of the red-haired giant and the Paiute skull, which is the lighter shade skull, the little yellow shade skull to the right of the reddish skull in the middle, is a normal sized Paiute skull, and that the middle skull, where the red arrow is pointing to, is the giant skull of the red-haired giants of Lovelock Cave. And what NK was saying is that, at this angle and stuff, one is propped up, one is propped down, and they are in pegs, so you can't move them. He was saying that the first thing that he noticed, and that Don noticed, and that he thinks is pretty easily able to see, is the eye sockets of the two skulls are completely different in size. In fact, the Paiute skull, which is tilted at an angle, the eye sockets do appear, in my opinion, pretty significantly smaller than the skull in the middle that supposedly is the red-haired giant. So this is the original photograph that Don took of these giants. And we're going to take a look at some of these other photographs that MK and Don did. So Don Monroe basically sweet-talked and became friends with the curator of the museum and got special access decades ago, and took photographs of these. Now, they're all official Paiute skulls. The official narrative is they're all Paiute skulls or Native Americans related to the Paiute culture, and that there's no giant bones, no giant anything found at all. And of course, these bones that are in this picture are not on display at the Lovelock Museum. They are supposedly in the back room, or maybe even gone now, is what I think Don and MK have said in the past. Basically, after this photograph got surfaced on the internet, it became harder to go back and look at the skulls and stuff. But the official story is that when the white people excavated the cave, and all the white people of Humboldt County were finding all these giant bones here and there and everywhere, they were measuring them by comparing them to their own legs and stuff. They were mismeasuring them by not having the bones properly in the right place compared to how they actually are, by adding a couple inches here and there. But I don't know how you can get from a couple inches to like 7 feet plus 8 foot giants by being a couple inches off of one single bone. But supposedly all the people who found all these giant bones and artifacts, of course they got taken by the Smithsonian, and they got properly measured in modern times to be about 6'1", the tallest and stuff. So supposedly these are just normal 6-foot tall Paiute Indians right here is what we're seeing. So right here in MK Davis's video recently, and he's done older videos and stuff. He's been on the show here talking about Lovelock Caves. Actually goes into pretty good history about it. Me and him talk about it. It's very interesting. So right here, when MK Davis went to the Lovelock Cave with Dogman and they went onto the observation deck, they peered over to the wall and they seen this. And this is what MK Davis and Don believe is a handprint on the wall. And this handprint on the wall is of a giant. And there's a closer look at the wall and how dust and stuff is covering the charred imprint on the wall. Here is the measurement of the knife into roughly from Don's fingertips to almost his elbow. But I think MK Davis said that the knife was from the hilt of the blade, or the bottom of the handle of the blade, to where the scabbard is all the way here. It's a little extended, was 18 inches. As you can see, the scabbard is about halfway on the knife. But from the scabbard all the way to right here is about 18 inches across is what MK and Don Moreau measured, believing that this is a giant handprint that one of these giants, as its dying breath, slapped the wall, and the over 1,000 degree fire was rampaging and causing a chemical reaction inside the cave, which he does show. Here's a interesting photograph that somehow the giant's hand burnt an imprint up on the wall and stuff, and so that's where you get the giant handprint on the wall. This comes from MK Davis and stuff. That's where that photograph comes from. That's where the giant handprint on the wall information comes from for this Lovelock Cave. MK Davis is under the belief that the official curators of the cave and government and all that are hiding this information and hiding the real artifacts and the real giant bones. And he says that they built the observation deck and they cleaned up. He said that when they made the observation deck, they took some of the walls and the debris and they made a foundation and raised up the bed and cleaned up some of the other imprints in the wall, but they didn't see that one, didn't find that one. So in this couple of photographs, MK is claiming and saying that what you're seeing there is spider webs embedded into the rock. You see these little webs, these lines, or these lines, these fishing line stuff right there. That line right there, those lines. This come from MK, on his second to last video. He says that these are spider webs that are embedded into the rock or something, or somehow during the intense heat process and flame that they got embedded into the rock somehow. I'm not sure where he's going with that, or really how that's possible in my mind. Spider webs are so fragile and stuff. I don't physically see how they get embedded into a rock from a cave fire. But maybe I'm not sure what those lines are. I'm not sure. I'm not a geologist. I'm not sure. Maybe those are normal formations in certain types of caves or something like that. Maybe, to me, it'd make more sense if there was cordage or ropes or something strung along the walls or stuff like that, that maybe that is what we are seeing. I'm not sure what we are seeing. So that's what MK says about that. These are photographs that I've never seen before, and I've never heard MK talk about, so I found it very interesting that he did a video and was talking about it. He made a video because someone was saying the handprint was a digital handprint, and he was just showing how it was real and was actually there. And he's talking about these spider webs and stuff. But someone was saying that this was a digital handprint, and it kind of made MK a little mad, and so he came and did video on it and stuff. And so that's the handprint. That's what they seen. That's the way we went up to and measured it. It has 5 digits or 6 digits. The pinky from on the right side is the pinky, ring finger, middle finger, index finger, and then potentially of the thumb is what MK and Don Monroe are seeing. So again, here's from MK's photograph and stuff. Here's a little clearer and closer view. And MK is really adamant that the one on the left is the giant and the one on the right is a normal Paiute, and you can look by the size of the eye sockets, and it does look, and he claims that it is not an illusion from one angled and one not angled, but that this is literally a bigger giant eye socket, and that is not. And another interesting thing, what I found very interesting, and a lot of Native Americans talk about the double rows of teeth that these giants have, or the double rows of teeth that these Nephilim giants have that are found or are in these legends of having double rows of teeth and 6-finger digits and that are giants with red hair. The interesting thing about this skull on the left that is supposedly a giant is the fact that it actually does have double rows of teeth, and you can see it right there. I think there's a little bit better picture. Maybe not. Yes, there is. You can see it right there, a little bit of the double rows of teeth. And as we look at the angle picture even more, you can see the set of double rows of teeth, and that the front top teeth are not all the way down and stuff. So he's chopping with those back molars and stuff, but you can see a double row set of teeth. MK talks about this double row sets of teeth and a little bit of the giants. Don Monroe, who took the photographs, specifically took that angle of a photograph because it had the double rows of teeth. So the official narrative of the story never does explain the double rows of teeth that are on these skulls. They just said they're just normal Paiute skulls. And in fact, in all the measurements where they measured the people and the bones found in this cave, I have never found any mention of double rows of teeth on any of the skeletons that they measured and stuff that are officially from Lovelock Cave. But if we are to believe Don Monroe and MK Davis, this is from the Lovelock Cave Museum. This is from the back room. This is not open to the public. And this is one of the original giant red-haired skeletons that they pulled out of the cave with the double rows set of teeth, increased eye socket compared to the regular skull. And so that is where we have these photographs and stuff that come from, and the information that is from behind that. And you can find more of this information, I'm sure, on MK Davis's YouTube channel called Green Wave 2012 FB for Facebook, I think is what his channel's name. And he's put a lot of different stuff with him and Don going there, and he's done a lot of interviews. He's done an interview here on the Lost Cryptids where we talk about it. I can't remember if we show any photographs and stuff like that, but he talks about it. And there's some other articles that I have of mysterious extra finger and toes of the Pueblo people of Chaco Canyon. And that talks about basically ancient people of the Pueblo culture of New Mexico. Decorated their houses with 6-digit handprints and footprints. And although it's not really known why these images are depicted on the homes, the researchers suggest that having an extra finger or digit made the person more important and respected in this society. So we do have examples of these, extra digits in Native American cultures, and again, the official story is we don't really know why. Some evidence suggests that that divine powers were attributed to having extra digits and stuff, just like they were with Pilotactilius, or what the condition where you have extra digits and stuff in the pre-Columbian tribes such as the Maya and stuff. They were initially intrigued by the evidence of divine power supposedly attributed. However, according to the report, the public culture did not view six-fingered toes individuals as superhuman like the Maya, but this form of the extra digits did grant people exalted status in life and in death. The researchers maintain that people with 6 toes were usually associated with important ritual structures and were buried in high status objects like turquoise. The researchers also determined how common the extra digit was among the Pueblo people. They analyzed 96 skeletons excavated from a Pueblo site in Chaco Canyon. In this group of remains, they identified 3 individuals with 6 toes on the right foot, which equates to about 3.1% of the sample pool. And they do give. I guess I'll show that real quick. I don't know why I'm not showing the article. I apologize. I do have to get off though. It is 8:00. I have dinner to make and other things to do. But I hope to join a live show tomorrow if someone else is having a open mic show like Jeff just did a fantastic show, and with Pat, and Pat also did a fantastic live show. Been nailing it out of the park with the Bigfoot question, the hard questions of, how come we're not finding them? Where do they go? What is actually going on in this woods? What's the population level, and how come, people are experiencing things when there are thousands of drones in the sky every single day? There are DNR researchers counting herds of animals with thermal drones, and there's all sorts of stuff going on where it doesn't really make sense of why there seems to be more going on than flesh and blood. Or maybe there's just more natural possibilities that we just don't quite understand yet. Anyways, they have a lot of different pictographs and cave art pieces showing the 6 digits, extra digits and stuff. And they're chalking it up to that this particular tribe had this the extra digit gene going on heavily and stuff, and they revered them as a little bit more divine in nature and stuff. But there's no the long-held theory is that the downfall of the culture occurred because the poor land use, deforestation, and all this other stuff. But they don't know. And and they did construct highly advanced towns and cities and just simply overuse their resources officially. This is kind of one of the articles where like the 6-toed giants and stuff in Native American culture isn't always necessarily chalked up to Native American giants, but the official narrative spin is that they just had extra toes, and that's why they when we find these mounds or these burial grounds where these extra digits and stuff, they're more revered because of religious aspects or that, not because they're actually giants with 6 fingers and 6 toes and red hair like different some tribes talk about. I'm actually having a really hard time trying to find the Apache legends of the 6-fingered giants, of why they said how and showed their hand to make sure they didn't have the 6 digit. I'm actually having a really hard time finding that article that actually talks about that. But I know it's out there because I've read it before. I know stuff's out there. But for some reason, it was a little hard trying to find the information on the disappearing lake in Michigan and the information on these older articles. Maybe they're just gone. They're not even on these websites anymore. Of these six-fingered giants of the Southwest and how the Native Americans greeted each other to show their hands to make sure, hey, I don't got the extra digit, dude. I'm okay. I'm normal. I'm a normal person, because some of these tribes didn't talk about them being giant, but they were a different people. They were just different. They had extra digits, and they weren't human enough for them to coexist. Kind of like the moon people from the Cherokee. You know, they were a cave dwelling human, non-human, humanoid people that the Cherokee exterminated. And the stories go that they exterminated these people underneath a full moon, because the moon-eyed people could see in the dark as if it was daytime. But when the moon was a full moon, it was too bright and blinded the moon people, and they hid in the caves. And the Native Americans, of course, piled up logs and debris in front of the caves, lit it on fire, and smoked and suffocated them out, and exterminated them. And those who were thought to have survived went into the caves and went westward. So again, it speaks more of these underground cave systems and other species of humanoid people. You know, a lot of people were like the Denisovans. The article we didn't read was, the speculation was that they were Denisovans, that the moon-eyed people, some of these red-haired giants, some of these six-fingered digits were Denisovans or Neanderthal leftover, or these other humanoid people that survived but weren't quite human and were interacting with Native Americans, and you know, they didn't work out. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that. I have so much more stuff to actually get through, probably a whole another hour's worth of actual stuff and information, and stuff that you guys can look up and find. And it's not just me talking out my ass about the Devil's Hole, or about car systems in Michigan, or all through North America, or about these giants. Another article where you guys can look up right now is the Niagara Falls speech that Abraham Lincoln gave, where he talks about the giants of Niagara Falls, whose eyes gazed upon the same falls as we do, who are found in the mounds that are buried. Abraham Lincoln, in his address on the Niagara Falls, talks about the giants who are found in the burial mounds, whose eyes have gazed upon the natural wonders of Niagara Falls. I didn't get to that article either, but I am going to read that next time. So I tune into Nikki's show, Sasquatch Secrets, and Sasquatch Secrets Dark, I think is her new channel name. I haven't memorized it, but take out a look for Nikki's shows coming up on Sunday. Take a look at Steve Cole's Sasquatch Detective show he's covering the new recent supposed researchers who caught potentially Bigfoot on film, multiple Bigfoots on film at nighttime. We'll see. I don't know. Check out Pine Island Research. He's been doing awesome shows lately, open mic stuff, hard-hitting topic and hard-hitting questions that every researcher really needs to take a step back and try to answer for themselves, and why. And also take a look at Squatch Talk with Pat Turner, as he's doing the same, asking the hard questions and all that. Hopefully everyone enjoyed this stream and all that. I had a lot of fun, like always, and I appreciate everyone's time. God bless each and every one of you. You are all amazing, and I can't wait to see you, hopefully tomorrow night, maybe on my show or someone else's show. Let's add to this discussion. Let's figure out some of these answers, and let's try to get more evidence. I have a lot of audio to go through. In fact, I got 48 hours worth, at least, no, more than that. Yeah, 48 hours of nighttime audio that I have to go through, plus this weekend's audio that I'm accumulating right now. So there's a lot of stuff that I'm going through and finding, and hopefully finding more stuff that it can collaborate and add to what's going on. And did take a few pictures of some potential tree structures or things that I was walking this trail. I've been walking this trail, and then all of a sudden, hey, there's this stick right here that wasn't there before. Oh, hey, there's this. It's kind of weird how this twig is like wrapped up and twisted and like hanging here because it wasn't here the last time I was here. So I photographed and kept photographing. I keep photographing this stuff to see if there's any changes, and I'm not quite sure if I photographed any changes since I've noticed that I thought there was changes, but there's some interesting things going on, and it just makes me have to answer their hard questions of, well, if I am experiencing stuff, is it really flesh and blood stuff? Because how come we're not catching on camera through drones, technology? How come I'm not seeing this stuff? Or is it more spiritual stuff that we're experiencing where you're just conjuring the stuff up by just going out there, knocking on trees and acting a fool? Kind of like a ghost hunt. You go to the haunted house and you do the same exact stuff with the same exact results. And that is kind of what's bothering me lately. And what's fascinating about all these discussions lately that's been going on the channels that I mentioned. So without further ado, we are crash landing with Plan like always. And we'll see you guys hopefully very soon.